Hi, I'm Richard McKenzie, co-author of Microeconomics for MBAs. This is the last in a series of video modules. In this module, I hope to identify 10 overarching lessons to be taken from the textbook and from these modules. We hope these video modules have been what we said they would be. That is, focused instruction on basic concepts, principles, and lines of arguments. We hope you've been able to replay them and gain a greater depth of understanding of economics than you otherwise would have. We are certain that these modules have been what we said they would be in another regard. They've been unpolished. They've been sort of rough and ready. We hope that this means that you have felt that you have gained something of a tutorial session by watching them. We did not intend for these modules to supplant the need for reading the textbook or listening to lectures. We hope you've used them as complements in your efforts to learn microeconomics. There are any number of lessons to be learned in a course in microeconomics. These video modules alone suggest that there are at least several dozen identifiable lessons to be taken away from a microeconomics course. What I want to do in this module is to pick out those 10 overarching lessons that seem to me to be things that you ought to remember in leaving your course in microeconomics. The first lesson I would stress is what we said at the start. Economics is a way of thinking about human behavior, and we hope you've acquired a way of thinking about managerial behavior by understanding the economic way of thinking. This way of thinking employs such concepts as opportunity cost or just cost. It employs the use of demand curves and cost curves, market structures and incentives, and it requires that you think in rationalistic terms and weigh off costs and benefits on everything. The way of economic thinking applies, we think, very broadly to just about every nook and cranny of behavior, not the least of which is managerial behavior. The kind of behavior you will be involved in after you return to your jobs and have your MBA in hand. James Buchanan, a Nobel laureate in economics, summed up the economist's approach to thinking this way. The economist's stock in trade, his tools, lies in his ability to and proclivity to think about all questions in terms of alternatives. The truth judgment of the moralist, which says that something is either wholly right or wholly wrong, is foreign to him, that is, to the economist. The win-lost, yes-no discussion of politics is not within his purview. He does not recognize the either-or the all-or-nothing situation as his own. His is not the world of the mutually exclusive. Instead, his is the world of adjustment, of coordinated conflict, of mutual gains. Another lesson, a second lesson to be learned, taken from this course, comes from something that happened to me when I was in Professor Buchanan's class several decades ago. Professor Buchanan was lecturing on an esoteric topic, and in the middle of the lecture, I raised my hand to ask, Professor Buchanan, but in the real world, at which point Professor Buchanan cut me off short, and he said, Mr. McKenzie, the real world is a special case, and therefore we need not consider it. He said that with a smile. And indeed, there is humor in that comment. The real world is a special case, and therefore we need not consider it. But I hope you understand that there is a great deal of wisdom in that comment also. Today is a special case of the real world. Tomorrow will be another special case, and the next day will be another special case. What we need to do in a course that's worthy of an MBA program is to devise a method of thinking about these special case worlds and be able to come up with insights that transcends the particulars of any given day, any given special case. Another third lesson to be learn from this course is that perfection is not a viable option. This is because that as one approaches achieving perfection, the cost of increasing perfection grows exponentially. And at some point, additional perfection is just not worth the additional cost, is not worth what has to be given up. This is to say that much of life is optimizing behavior, a matter of weighing off costs and benefits in order to seek some sort of optimum, whether it's optimum profits or optimum pollution or optimum lying or whatever. This method of thinking about behavior puts the lie to the old phrase, anything worth doing is necessarily worth doing well. The truth of the matter is, from an economic perspective, is anything worth doing is not necessarily always worth doing well. Why? Because doing something well can add to the cost. The economic way of thinking also suggests that there is no such thing as a free lunch. Where choices are involved, there is always a cost to doing whatever is done. A fourth lesson should now be transparent to all listeners of these modules. That lesson is that all demand curves slope downward. And downward sloping demand curves are everywhere. And of course, by downward sloping, I mean that if the price goes down, the quantity demanded will go up and vice versa. There is clearly a demand for candy. If you lower the price of candy, people will buy more candy. There is a similar demand for DVDs, but there's also a demand for sex. The lower the price of sex, the more sex can be demanded. There is a demand for cheating. You lower the price of cheating and you're going to get more cheating. You lower the price of voting and you're going to get more people voting. There is a demand for affection. You raise the price of affection and in fact people will choose less of it. Raise the price of years of life and people will make trade-offs. The demand curves slope downward is a very important principle in economics. A fifth lesson to be learned is that size does matter in the economy. We saw this in small and large groups. As the size of the group escalates, the individual's actions become less and less consequential. As a consequence, the interests of the group can become less powerful in motivating group behavior. Size matters in markets. We noted that if in fact you have a highly competitive market, that individual producers will be price takers. They will act as if they cannot affect the price. We also noted that size matters in pollution. If you have a small plot with a few people on that plot, you can expect that plot to be well cared for. But you raise the size of the plot and you raise the number of people involved, then you can end up with a pollution problem, as we observe in cities and as we observe in lakes. Size matters. Well, it's a principle that underlies the principal agency problems that have been at the heart of so many of the chapters of the textbook and these modules. Size matters in cartel organization and maintenance. You get a large number of cartel members and the cartel is not going to be able to maintain restrictions on production and keep the price and profits high.